Today, I want to give you a beginner's guide to Pandas, the very popular Python library for quantitative finance and algo trading. So what we'll talk about is what Pandas is. We'll look at some use cases for quants. We'll discuss the series and the data frame. These are going to be the two main data structures that it provides to help you perform what you need to perform. We'll look at some key operations like how to view your data set, how to handle missing values, compute quick statistics like means and standard deviations, look at percent changes as well as moving averages, and then at the end I will give you a free cheat sheet that you can download. In fact, that link will be in the description below if you just want to get it right now, and that will give you a nice reference for all of these different Pandas functions as well as some other libraries that you'll use on a daily basis as an algo trader with Python. So let's jump right into it. First of all, what is Pandas? Maybe you've heard of this before. It's probably the most popular library out there for quant trading or market data analysis. And I'll tell you this, if I could pick only one Python library to use for my entire algo trading business, I would pick Pandas. Now, if you go to its website, and you'll find that link as well below, they will tell you that Pandas is a fast, powerful, flexible, and easy to use open source data analysis tool. And it's built on top of the Python programming language. So some use cases that we're going to follow are going to be things like loading our market data into our memory from maybe a CSV or from a database. It's going to help us with things like removing missing values or controlling outliers in a messy data set, as well as just doing basic column operations like adding new ones, removing old ones that we don't really need, or combining multiple columns into a data set. It'll also give us summary statistics, like I mentioned, means, standard deviations, and really that's just the basics, but it can do a lot more than that. And it's even built natively with plotting, so we can make line graphs and histograms and all sorts of data visualizations as we're doing our initial exploration. And finally, we can even take Pandas and use these data structures that it gives us, and I'll show you these in just a minute, and feed them into machine learning models or statistical models to build forecasts or to do any sort of analysis that we want. Like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and I know that these operations may sound kind of basic, but they are the sort of things that you'll need to do constantly when digging into market data to find alpha or train a model for an algorithmic trading system. So without Pandas, you'll be in for a very rough time. Let's jump into the initial data structures and actually look at some code. So the first one that I'm going to cover here is the series. And like I mentioned, Pandas provides two different data structures. So the series is going to be a one-dimensional labeled array that can hold any data type. So we can have numbers, strings, floating points, whatever it is. And every series is going to have something called an axis, which is just going to label the data. And the basic method to create a series is to call pd.series, right? It's pretty simple. And here I'm going to pass in a data, which is just going to be a list here, ABC. And then the index will be 1, 2, 3, so it'll be numbered. You'll also notice here that I'm importing Pandas as PD. This is the standard convention. So let's preview this cell. Here we go. We see we have our series, and like I said, it's just a one-dimensional array, basically. But it gives us lots of additional power, and I'll show you that now. So first of all, this data that we passed in, that could be many different things. It could be a dictionary. It could be a NumPy ND array. If you're not familiar with that, don't worry about it. It could also just be a normal array or a list like we've seen here. It could even be a scalar value, right? And the index, here we passed explicitly 1, 2, 3. We don't actually need this by default. Pandas will just give us a numerical index. It'll actually start at 0, but we can pass whatever we want. And in fact, I'll show you in a minute how to use things like dates to create time series or manage time series data. So let's take a trivial practical example. Let's say we were going to manage the daily inventory for a fruit stand. That's our business in this case. You could use a series like below to track the number of apples sold per day. So here our data is how many apples we're selling per day. And then our index is actually going to be a date range from the 1st of January to the 5th of January. And we're going to name our column or our series the number of apples sold. So if I run this here, now this is actually starting to look a bit, you could do this in Excel trivially, but I'm just showing you a basic example right now, and we'll see how this scales up very quickly and becomes more powerful with actual market data. So first, we can use some basic functions. I'll show you, for example, the max and the min function. Here we can see the range of apples sold throughout the time period. So obviously it's 3, right? 3 minus 0. We can also get the average, so apples.mean. Let me execute this. So we have 1.8 apples sold on average per day. And then we can even resample the data. So here I'm passing in W, that means weekly. And I called out sum to do the resample, and you'll see here that we've sold 9 apples in the week, right? Again, very basic example. I'm just trying to show you some basic operations that you can perform on a series. But now let's scale up to the data frame. So after the series, the data frame is basically kind of just multiple series combined together. You can basically think of this like a spreadsheet that's been brought into Python. And like I said, it gives you all the functions of Excel, but now you have a lot more power and control and speed. So here I'm going to create a second series called oranges. And here it'll just be defined by some random numbers from 0 to 10. It'll have the same kind of setup, and then I'm going to concatenate. That's what this function is, concat, basically merge together my apples and my oranges and compare apples to oranges. So let's take a look at this. So here we have a data frame, right? There's two columns now instead of just one, so it's multi-dimensional, and our index is the same. They share this datetime index. Now that I have a data frame, I can perform some different interesting operations on it. So the simplest one is just calling .info. This will tell me, what my columns are, what the type of the columns is. So here they're int64, that's just a regular number, regular integer. And then we have 5 non-null values. Basically, we're not missing any values in the columns. Again, very basic, but we'll see this in some real market data in just a minute. I can also call .describe. And describe is interesting. Basically, what it'll give me is the statistics for my data set. So I can see what the means are right here. I can see the standard deviation. So you can see that my number of oranges sold is a lot more volatile per day, but I'm also selling a lot more oranges on average. And it shows me the minimum, the maximum, as well as the different percentiles. Now here I only have 5 rows of data, but imagine I had 1,000 or 100,000. I can always call this .head function, and that will just show me the first 5 rows. So it gives me a little bit of a preview of the data set so I can see my columns and the index type and all that. Now, something that I might want to do often is not just look at how many apples I sold, but look at the percent change, because that shows me the trend over time. And I can do that by calling, obviously, percent change, right? And all this is doing is basically subtracting, this value from the day before it, and then calculating how much of a percent change that is. So here you can see our number of apples sold is kind of going down, and then it jumps back up, and then our oranges sold is kind of fluctuating around quite a bit as well. But you will notice that we have a bit of an issue here, which is when we calculate the percent change, well, on the first day, we have no previous data to compare it to. So we actually get these NaN, that stands for not a number. That's basically a missing value. Now with Pandas, we can drop those out by calling the drop NA function. And obviously we lose the first row, but now our data set is a little bit cleaner. The next thing I'll show you is how to do a rolling mean. So obviously as traders, we love to do rolling averages, simple moving averages, exponential moving averages, whatever it is. So here I can call dataframe .rolling, and then 2 means just a 2-day, and call .mean as our aggregation function. And again, we'll lose this first day of value, or this first day's value, because we don't have anything before it. We basically don't have enough historical data to calculate it there. But now we have our simple 2-day mean, or 2-day simple moving average. And we can always plot this data as well. So I mentioned that Pandas is natively set up to work with Python data visualization libraries. So here you go. I just call .plot on our data set, and we get a nice kind of line chart of the number of apples we've sold and the number of oranges we've sold. And it natively figures out that we're looking at dates and things like that. So it's very, very easy to use. Now that we've kind of finished up with these trivial examples, though, let's look at some actual market data, because I know you're probably thinking, this is cool, these are nice little things, but how do I actually use this for my trading operation? And what I'll do here is I'll download some price data for Apple, the stock now, and we'll go all the way back to 1980. So you can see here that we have 11,240 rows and 5 columns. The 5 columns are close, open, low, close, high, low, open, and volume. And obviously this is all for the same stock, Apple. So let me just pull off the Apple data specifically. You can see here that this is actually capable of downloading multiple stocks at once. So here, if I were to put in Microsoft, for example, you'll see it actually gives me the whole shebang. But I really just want Apple. So I will pull off the ticker. Actually, sorry, let me remove Microsoft here as well, and actually start kind of playing around with this. So the first thing is, I don't really want all 4 of these columns. Let me just pull off the close to start off with. So here, what I'm actually doing is converting this data frame into a new variable called Apple prices, which is just a series, right? I'm pulling off the close column from the data frame, and what I get back is now a series. It's pretty simple. And everything that we saw before still applies. So for example, something we often want to do when we're dealing with market data is not just look at the prices, but actually look at the daily returns. And now if I do percent change, just like we saw before, let me see how this runs. There we go. Now I have how much Apple stock is changing every day, right? It went down 5%, down 7%, up 2%, up 2%. This is a lot more useful for us as traders. So I can also plot this out. So if I look at tail 252, that's going to give me the last year's worth of values, basically. And we can see our prices over the last year, as well as our returns over the last year. And again, this is just very, very basic stuff, but these are the sorts of calculations that you're going to do foundationally every single time you use Pandas, or every single time you want to analyze a stock, build a model, whatever it is, from a statistical standpoint, like you will as a quant trader. So this has been a pretty basic introduction just to give you some initial ideas for what Pandas can do and why it's useful for you. Just to help you out as you get started, I have created a free one-page cheat sheet with all these functions and more, not just for Pandas, but also for NumPy and sklearn and matplotlib and yfinance and even Python itself. And I just wanted to kind of create this so you don't have to dig through so much documentation or do Google searching every time you forget a command. So if you want to grab that, that will be the top link in the description. Now, what you've seen today, like I said, is just the tip of the iceberg so far as Pandas goes. Once you're comfortable with these basics, you can start chaining operations, building out custom indicators, and even preparing features for a machine learning model, all using Python and Pandas. Now, whether you're backtesting strategies or handling real-time data feeds, this library is going to become a core part of your trading workflow. So in the future, we can discuss other key workflows like how to clean and merge market data from multiple sources. We can also look at how to build some custom indicators using, rolling windows or maybe some grouping operations. This is really, what I've shown you today is just the absolute basics of analysis that you can do here, but there's so much more that you can do. You can ask all sorts of questions about your data, build all sorts of strategies based on it. And I'm happy to get into those sorts of techniques next. You can also calculate, different cross-sectional ranks or z-scores. Maybe you want to transform a feature, do a little bit of feature engineering to make it more predictive. That's very easy to do with Pandas. And as we kind of saw, you can also resample your data into maybe from intraday to daily bars or from daily to weekly. Basically just transform things so it's in a suitable state for you to analyze it. And lastly, you can always feed your cleaned Pandas data into a backtest or a machine learning model. Really, Pandas is the foundation of all of these things. So if there's something specific you'd like to see next, let me know down in the comments below and I'll prioritize what's most useful to you. And like I said, if you haven't yet, make sure to grab the free cheat sheet below so you've got these Pandas tools at your fingertips. Last thing, guys, if you are serious about algo trading and want to go deeper, I cover Pandas and the entire trading system development process inside of our Python for Traders masterclass, where I show you how to build your first trading bot with Python in just 6 weeks, even if you're a beginner. So if you know some Python or you're ready to learn and you want to become an algo trader and break out of tutorial hell so you can build something that actually goes live, this is a proven step-by-step path to research, code, and launch your first trading bot so you can finally stop dreaming and start trading. The link for that will also be in the description below. Until then, grab the free cheat sheet and get started. I'll see you guys in the next one.